Christopher Alexander defines good architectural form not merely as a visually pleasing structure but as a space that directly supports human life, aligns with nature, and offers psychological well-being. For Alexander, a good form is one of that allows people to feel safe, at ease, and alive. It enhances the quality of everyday experiences rather than imposing abstract or purely aesthetic ideals. He articulates this idea through a pattern language, a book that processes a system of patterns, recurring solutions to common design problems. Each pattern addresses a specific issue, such as there should be a places to sit along the street or buildings should let in natural light, and offers a proven, adaptable solution grounded in real human needs. These patterns are designed to be used together, forming a coherent language that can guide the design of anything from a single room to an entire city. For example, when designing a neighborhood, one might use the pattern Identifiable Neighborhood Center together with play spaces for children to create a socially vibrant and safe community space. Instead of prescribing fixed forms, Alexander's pattern language empowers the designer or even the community itself to create flexible, context-sensitive environments that feel alive. This approach is both orderly and adaptable. It provides a clear structure while also allowing for customization based on context and user feedback. Alexander's broader aim is to democratize design by making it accessible and human-centered, so that good architecture can be produced not just by professionals, but by anyone willing to engage with the language of patterns.
Stanley introduced the concept of field conditions as a non-hierarchical relational approach to design. Rather than starting with a central object or fixed form, field conditions emphasize the relationship between individual elements within a system and how these relationships can adapt to context, scale, and change over time. Traditional architecture often emphasizes static, complete forms, building as singular objects with clear boundaries and fixed purposes. Allen challenges this by proposing design strategies that are open-ended, process-based, and capable of evolving. A field condition is not designed from the top down, but emerges from bottom-up interactions among parts.
Central axis, but through repeated modules and networks of circulation. These designs allow for change, expansion, and multiple access points qualities that reflect real-life complexity and use. Allen's approach reframes the role of the architect. Instead of dictating a complete solution, the architect becomes a facilitator who sets up systems and frameworks within which users and conditions can shape the final outcome. For instance, imagine designing a public park. A traditional plan might fix paths, banks, and trees in specific locations. A field-based approach would instead design a system of interchangeable elements like shaded zones, seating clusters, and plant beds that can shift and adapt based on users' activity and environmental conditions. In this way, field conditions reject rigid pre-established solutions in favor of flexibility, responsiveness, and distributed order. This makes architecture more resilient to social and environmental change and more capable of accommodating complexity over time.
Alexander sees the designer as a packeteer who enables a coherent and human-centered built environment through a system of time-tested patterns. These patterns offer perspective solutions that, when combined, lead to wholeness and harmony. The designer's role is to empower users by guiding the use of these universal patterns to generate a living environment that feels natural and ordered. In contrast, Allen views the designer more as a strategic or co-rapper with a dynamic system. His field coordination approach rejects strict formal hierarchies, instead favoring adaptable frameworks that accommodate flux, multiplicity, and decentralizations. For Ellen, coherence arises not from predetermined forms but from embedded rules or relations that evolve over time.
Alexander prefers order and clear rules in design. He does not like too much complexity or sudden change. He created a system called pattern language, which helps people design buildings and cities in a simple and organized way. These patterns are based on what has worked well for people for a long time. For Alexander, change is allowed, but only if it follows these patterns. In this way, he tries to keep things stable and understandable. Ellen, on the other hand, has a very different view. He accepts that the world is always changing and full of different forces like social needs, nature, and time. His design method, called Fayette Conventions, is made to work with this complexity. Instead of fixed rules, he uses flexible systems that can grow and adapt. Ellen believes that design should not try to control everything, but should allow things to change naturally.
Alexander's approach is focused on people. His pattern language is based on how people live, what they need, and what makes them feel comfortable. Each pattern comes from real-life situations. He also believes that users should take part in the design process. People can choose and use the patterns that fit their own lives and cultures. This helps create buildings and spaces that really work for the people who use them. Alan's approach is more about systems and direct user impacts. His field conditions are not designed by asking users what they want, but they are still very open and flexible. His design
things stable and understandable. Ellen, on the other hand, has a very different view. He accepts that the world is always changing and full of different forces like social needs, nature, and time. His design method, called Fayette Conventions, is made to work with this complexity. Instead of fixed rules, he uses flexible systems that can grow and adapt. Ellen believes that design should not try to control everything, but should allow things to change naturally.
Alexander's approach is focused on people. His pattern language is based on how people live, what they need, and what makes them feel comfortable. Each pattern comes from real-life situations. He also believes that users should take part in the design process. People can choose and use the patterns that fit their own lives and cultures. This helps create buildings and spaces that really work for the people who use them. Alan's approach is more about systems and direct user impacts. His field conditions are not designed by asking users what they want, but they are still very open and flexible. His designs can change depending on the place and situations. So even though people don't directly design space, the system can still meet their needs because it can adapt to different social and physical conditions.
Christopher Alexander's book, A Pattern Language, aims to create a design language through identifiable and repeatable patterns, with the goal of shaping the built environment according to user needs. This approach offers suggestions from a smaller scale to a large scale, focusing on the user experience and the livability of the space. However, when applying this model to contemporary urban design, certain theoretical and practical limitations arise. For example, many of the patterns are shaped by a specific Western culture and the middle-class lifestyle of that time, making their relevance in different socio-cultural contexts questionable. Additionally, the model's focus on individual users may fail to address complex issues found in today's cities, such as social inequalities, migration, and informal settlements. Static and idealized spatial solutions limits its applicability, especially in rapidly changing urban areas where flexibility is often required. Stan Allen's Fayette Conventions approach, on the other hand, views space as a collection of relational and network-based structures rather than fixed objects. This model supports a non-centralized, adaptable and pluralistic design philosophy. While it offers a more suitable theoretical foundation for the dynamic nature of cities, it also has its limitation.
First, the focus on form being secondary may create uncertainties in the physical shaping of the environment. Furthermore, prioritizing relation structures could diminish individual user experience, weakening the connections between the user and the shape. On a management level, this approach proposes a more open-ended and harder to control system compared to classical urban planning models, creating challenges for local governments and investors. In large-scale transformation projects, it can complicate the decision-making process. In conclusion, while Alexander's pattern-based approach provides a powerful tool for understanding space and designing environments suited to user needs, Allen's field-based model offers flexible solutions that consider the changing and complex nature of contemporary cities. However, neither model alone fully addressed the complexity of modern urban designing. Therefore, in today's design practice, developing hybrid models that combine these two approaches, such as integrating fixed patterns with flexible relation structures, could lead to more functional and adaptable solutions.
Contemporary architecture faces complex challenges such as rapid urbanization, technological transformation, climate change, and growing social diversity. Architecture is now expected not only to create physical spaces, but also to adapt to shifting social and environmental conditions with flexible, inclusive solutions. In this context, Christopher Alexander's pattern language and Stan Allen's field conditions represent two influential frameworks. While both offer unique approaches, Allen's open-ended systemic thinking appears more aligned with today's complex architectural landscape. Alexander's method emphasizes human experience and local context. His concept of patterns provides spatial solutions rooted in everyday life and forms a structured yet ethical approach to design. It is particularly effective for creating user-centered, livable environments. In contrast, Allen proposes a model where architecture emerges from dynamic relationships and adaptable systems rather than fixed forms. His approach is well suited for large-scale urban projects and conditions shaped by variability, making it more capable of addressing unpredictable factors like climate change and digitalization. While Alexander's focus on human-scale values remains essential, especially for creating meaningful spaces, his structured, logic way be less effective in dealing with today's fast-evolving conditions. Therefore, Allen's flexible, responsive framework offers greater potential. However, combining it with Alexander's human-centered principles could lead to more holistic and sustainable architectural solutions. In conclusion, Allen's systemic thinking offers a broader potential for contemporary challenges, especially when supported by the ethical and experiential depth found in Alexander's work. And thank you for watching.